Welcome to the deep dive. We take your submitted sources and pull out the most interesting bits, the useful insights to get you well informed, fast.
Get you up to speed quickly.
Exactly. Today we're doing something a little different. We're diving into, well, a conversation between a boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay.
Our source is excerpts from episode 3 Google Docs.pdf, which, interestingly, is actually an English language learning podcast.
Oh, that is interesting. So even though it's for learners, these everyday kinds of interactions, they can offer a really fascinating look at how we communicate, especially about relationships, right?
Precisely. So our mission for this deep dive is kind of twofold. First, we want to explore the subtle ways common English phrases get used when talking about love, relationship direction, that kind of thing.
The nuances.
Yes, the nuances. And second, we're going to explore the sometimes sweet, sometimes maybe a little cheesy world of pet names.
Ah, pet names. Always interesting.
Okay, so let's start by unpacking how they actually talk about love in this dialogue.
Right. So in the source, we see two main ways they express it. To love someone and to be in love with someone.
Yeah.
They might sound almost the same, but the difference is actually pretty significant.
How so?
Well, the boyfriend says, "I'm in love with you," and later they both use "I love you."
Okay, so to be in love with someone,
Yeah.
that sounds more intense, more specific.
Exactly. It has this strong romantic connotation, almost exclusively for your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife.
Whereas you can love your family, your friends, even your dog.
But you wouldn't typically say you're in love with your sister, for example.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Right. So that in love with really signals that deep, passionate, romantic connection. It's specific.
Got it. It's the whole butterflies can't stop thinking about them feeling. Okay, now the conversation itself actually kicks off with a very simple question, but one I think a lot of people dread hearing it. Can we talk?
Oh, yeah. Can we talk?
Yeah.
On the surface, super simple. Just asking to have a chat.
But in a relationship context, it feels heavy.
It really does. It carries a surprising amount of weight, doesn't it? I think that anxiety comes from, maybe past experiences where that phrase meant bad news was coming.
Totally. It triggers this uncertainty, maybe a potential conflict. It definitely highlights how important, safe communication is in a relationship. If your partner just drops a "can we talk" out of the blue, your mind just starts racing, doesn't it?
It does. And it's almost never about something light. It's like, "Hey, can we talk? I love your new shoes."
Yeah, never.
Exactly. The source points out that "can we talk" usually comes before a serious conversation. It often hints at bad news or, big relationship issues that need hashing out.
It's definitely not the casual way you'd start talking about, I don't know, a movie you saw.
Not at all. It sets a specific, often tense mood.
Okay, so that's a phrase loaded with unspoken meaning. Then there's another one that seems simple, but its meaning really shifts depending on how you say it. You know what I mean.
Ah, yes, you know what I mean. This one popped up in the dialogue, too.
And it's fascinating how just a little change in your voice, the intonation, completely changes what it does.
Well, fundamentally, it's about seeking understanding, isn't it? Or maybe agreements, like a little check-in. Are we on the same page here?
Yeah, like building common ground.
Exactly. So if you say it more like a statement,
Yeah.
the source has an example like, "I'm just so tired when I get home." You know what I mean? Kind of flat intonation.
Right. It feels more like you're just sharing a feeling, hoping they relate, like stating a fact about your tiredness.
But if you make it a question with that upward inflection at the end, like the example about friends, "I just don't approve of those friends." You know what I mean?
Ah, okay. Then you're actively looking for confirmation. You want them to say, yeah, I get it.
Precisely. It becomes a real question, seeking validation or understanding of your point. Like the other example, "This class is so boring." You know what I mean? Rising tone at the end.
And you're hoping they'll go, oh, yeah, tell me about it.
Right. So that little lift in your voice transforms it.
It's subtle but powerful. Okay, so moving on, the girlfriend in this dialogue, she really cuts to the chase. She asks, I want to know where this relationship is going. That's a big moment in any relationship.
It certainly is a pivotal question. And that structure, "where is something going," is actually quite versatile, isn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, it taps into this basic human need to understand, like, the future path or the purpose of something. Could be a project, a job,
Or a relationship.
or a relationship. It's about trajectory.
The source had some good examples of this structure. Like, I'm not sure where my career's going in this company.
Yeah, that suggests, maybe a lack of clear advancement or feeling stuck.
Or this movie is so confusing, I have no idea where the plot is going.
complete lack of direction there, just confusion.
And the classic, we've been in this meeting for an hour, where is this going?
Oh, we've all felt that one. Frustration at a lack of clear purpose or endpoint.
Definitely. So when the girlfriend asks about the relationship, she's really asking about the future, right? Commitment, shared goals.
Yeah, is this heading towards something more serious?
Yeah.
Marriage, long-term commitment? Or are we just floating? What's the plan here?
Right. Is there a plan? Okay, now, things get a bit tense because the boyfriend responds with this incomplete thought. Maybe it's just time we, and then he just stops.
Oof. Yeah, that unfinished sentence, it's incredibly powerful because it's just loaded with implication.
It hangs there.
It really does.
Yeah.
It strongly suggests a change is needed. And depending on everything that came before it, that change could be huge, like potentially the end.
The ambiguity is kind of the point, isn't it? It forces the other person to fill in the blank, often with their worst fear.
Exactly. The source actually plays with this a bit, offering different ways to finish it. The obvious one in this context is probably...
Break up.
Right. But then they throw in, almost humorously, have a baby.
Which would be quite a swerve in that conversation. A bit of dark humor, maybe.
Definitely changes the tone. And then the more mundane, like, go home. Maybe if the argument's dragged on really late.
Okay, so the context is everything for understanding that hanging phrase.
Absolutely. The ambiguity creates suspense. And here, probably a good deal of anxiety for the girlfriend, wondering what's coming next.
It's a real cliffhanger moment. Now, right after that, or sort of around it, the boyfriend says, we've had our laughs, but I don't appreciate. And then he trails off again before she has her, maybe it's just time we moment.
Right.
Let's look at that first part. We've had our laughs. On the surface, that sounds okay, right? Like acknowledging the good times.
It does. It sort of establishes, hey, we have a shared history. There were good moments. But, as the source notes, there are other similar phrases that add different shades of meaning.
Okay, like what?
Well, think about, we've had our ups and downs.
Ah, okay. That acknowledges the bad times too, not just the good. More balanced, maybe.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a relationship with both highs and lows. Or, we've had our moments. That one's a bit more vague, isn't it?
Yeah, moments could be good or bad, or just memorable things.
Right, could be highlights, could be low points. Then there's, we've had our issues.
Okay, that one's pretty direct. Clearly points to problems, difficulties.
And you could also use, we've had our moments specifically to mean like special, cherished times. Kind of the opposite of issues.
Wow, so just tweaking a word or two, laughs, ups and downs, moments, issues, really changes the whole feeling about the relationship's past.
It really does. Small words, big difference in nuance.
Fascinating. Okay, let's shift gears now to something generally a bit happier, pet names.
Ah, yes, the sweet side.
The dialogue we're looking at uses honey and baby, and the original podcast host spent some time on this whole cultural thing of pet names.
And it's interesting, isn't it, how these simple little words, terms of endearment, carry so much affection and intimacy.
Yeah, and the source makes a good point, distinguishing between pet names for your partner and names for your actual pet, like your dog or cat.
Right, though sometimes there might be overlap. But generally, these are special names for humans. They become this sort of unique insider language for a couple, don't they? Strengthening the bond.
Totally. So we're not talking about calling your poodle Sweetie Pie, though you could. We're talking about those names for your significant other. Besides baby and honey, the source mentioned other common English ones like sweetheart, darling, sweetie, cutie. Kind of the
standards. And the source also mentions how some can sound a bit, well, cheesy.
Oh, yeah. Like smookums.
Yeah.
Or a honey bunny. Sweetie Pie, even.
Exactly. Some couples love that playful cheesiness. Others might cringe. It's really subjective, isn't it? Depends entirely on the couple and their dynamic.
It really does. And then you have the really personal ones, the made-up names.
Oh, those are the best.
The examples given were things like Pooh Bear or dumpling. They often come from like inside joke or a shared memory.
Or just some silly word that feels right for that person. It captures something endearing about them, maybe only to you.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting culturally because the source brought up examples from other languages.
Right, this was fascinating. Like in Spanish, apparently, gordo or gorda, which literally means fat, can be used affectionately.
Whoa, okay, that would not go over well as a pet name in English generally.
Definitely not. And the French example, ma puce, which means my flea.
My flea.
My flea. Again, the direct translation completely loses the intended affection.
Wow. That really drives home how much these things are tied to culture, doesn't it? What sounds sweet and loving in one place could sound bizarre or even insulting somewhere else.
Absolutely. You can't just translate them directly and expect them to work. It's all about the cultural context of endearment.
It makes you appreciate that whole unspoken language of affection and how different cultures find unique ways to express it. Okay, so wrapping this up, we started with what seemed like a pretty simple conversation, but we've actually uncovered quite a few layers of communication.
We really have. We looked at the difference between love and in love with, that intensity signal.
Mm-hmm. And the weight behind "can we talk?" That little phrase that can cause so much anxiety.
And how intonation changes everything for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Turning it from just sharing to actually asking for a connection.
We also dug into where is this relationship going, that search for clarity about the future, and the tension in an unfinished thought like, maybe it's just time we.
That dramatic pause. And finally, the whole world of pet names, from the common to the cheesy to the deeply personal and cultural.
Yeah, what really stands out to me is just how much meaning gets packed into these everyday phrases, especially in, a close relationship.
It's a great reminder, isn't it? To listen not just to the words, but the tone, the context, the history between people, even what's not said.
Absolutely. Lots of potential aha moments hiding in plain sight once
Yeah.
you start looking. And the pet names are just a fun reminder of how we build our own little linguistic worlds and relationships.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? A question for everyone listening. What unspoken meanings might be lurking in your own conversations, in your relationships?
Yeah, and what about pet names? If you use them or hear them, what do they really signify about the connection or maybe even the cultural background involved?
Definitely food for thought. Maybe take a second to think about other simple phrases you use or hear all the time. Do they carry extra weight or subtext you hadn't noticed?
And if you know other languages, think about those nuances too. Are there equivalent phrases or terms of endearment that just don't quite translate? It's fascinating stuff. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.